Welcome to Mindful Drawing. I'm Rooks Fun, and I'll be your guide as we explore the creative act of drawing as an entrance into meditation on awareness and mindfulness. This is a practice. I host these once a week, and you can join live through Mindful Prat or find them here on YouTube in the Mindful Drawing channel. Usually there's a new episode every week, and there's plenty to go back over if you find this interesting. Please let me know what you think, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe for new episodes. Mindful drawing is a practice like meditation where we connect the action of this external expression of drawing with our own internal rhythms, with the breath, with our mindful energy, with thoughts that might be going on, and let them flow out through the drawing medium, flow onto that paper, and give us a space to relax, to open up, and to enter into some of that emptiness, that mindlessness of a drawing space. This week we'll explore through the meditation and through the drawing the looping nature of our thoughts, a loop into a loop, a way to capture an idea or an area and then allow that to repeat a little bit, but with some degree of awareness to its repetition, and then look and see what that might inspire as a creative expression. These meditations can just be part of the act of drawing, having a few moments to listen and be guided as how your pen or pencil moves around on a pad of paper, or they can lead deeper in as you open yourself up to the awareness of what might be passing behind the eyes, what might come through the hand into expression. Whatever you may experience as you draw, we'll stick to our breath, use it as that anchor, as that guiding place. We can always come back to either reform, to recalibrate in the drawing, or to express something new. All you need is a pen or pencil or something else you like to draw with, a pad of paper or a sketchbook, and a little space around you to give yourself that 25 to 30 minutes of mindful practice. So go ahead and gather your supplies, establish your space, and let's draw together. So on a little warm-up sheet, just first starting by drawing is kind of a circle-ish thing. And when you come around back towards the beginning, continue on and give it a little smaller inside loop. You could do inside or outside, but I think a loop in a loop will be our primary kind of technique and meditative focus. Bringing that wherever it may be, just in the motion of the hand to create kind of a circle, and then let that movement continue on and kind of come to a slower stop with the second loop. Or maybe we can connect through the drawing some further meditations on cycles, the repetition of things, circling back, and continuity. But if that is basically the shape we'll explore, and the pattern, that we can look at different ways to do it in terms of going right to left, left to right, top to bottom, or bottom to top, and see how that forms around on the larger paper. So with a fresh sheet, or just continuing on wherever you started with the warm-up, we can begin to draw into that big open territory. First loop, taking a breath in to stabilize and establish position, check in a little with our feet or how we're sitting. And then when you feel ready, letting the hand find a comfortable place to begin, choosing a direction and a location, and then just letting the first part of the loop unfold. Experiment fast or slow, left or right, and just at the end giving that extra little slow down or re-looping back in on itself. And after the first one, we'll start to gather them around each other, perhaps starting out in space, coming around just to kind of touch or be close, finish up with that loop, and use the space on the page to begin to gather several of these rounds. And as we establish, bringing our attention to that breath, finding a comfortable rhythm, perhaps breathing in along the beginning and out along the ending of the second loop. Letting that little extra slowdown, revolution, or orbit guide the finishing out of a breath. That little kind of pump at the end that helps our lungs expel the remaining air. Breathing in when you need to find position or choose the next location. Establishing, giving yourself some space to breathe regularly around the first loop and prepare for a exhale as you come to a finish. I'm often feel kind of programmed to draw on the out breath, and using this exercise to bring some attention to drawing on the in breath first, filling our space of our lungs, and then filling some space on the page. We're going to move to a new location, just start a new cluster. We can continue expanding one cluster, move around and create a few or many. I'm going to bring my attention in this cluster to breathing in to form the first revolution. And out on that closing of the loop. If the out breath begins just a little bit early, we can guide it gradually into that closing loop and just let the flow around empty out our lungs, preparing for the next beginning. You may need a couple of breaths in between each shape. That's fine. Take your time to reestablish so you can breathe in on the first loop. Really guiding our attention there, and then out in the closing inner loop. Forming that relationship, dialogue with the space of the page and the rhythm of the breath. Letting it become part of the mechanics of the drawing as it guides our hand and our body. But also a place for meditation, of challenging perhaps some of the defaults, in my case, wanting to breathe out on the first line, instead breathing in. Or just as a measure of movement and speed, keeping pace with your own breath rhythms, fast or slow, deep or gradual. Try not to have shallow if we can. Light is okay. Maybe a few more, really with that attention there on the finding location in the space between. Establishing as you breathe in, and then finishing as you let it all flow out to an emptiness. And that cycle of filling, of of replenishing and of removing, or releasing in our breath the oxygen and the toxins, the gases that support and are produced, but in general, just in our mind, a filling, an opening, and then a release through action and through attention into the act of drawing. And as our breath is well established, we can begin to let that either continue to guide us or fall back into a natural rhythm, letting the body find its own connection. Perhaps it stays with that same motion or evens out a little bit. But at any time, we have that as an anchor to come back, to breathe in with establishing motion and out with the finishing, completing motion. And now, with the breath well formed and established, we can bring our attention in to how we begin and end each circle or form. Where does it start and how does it orient, guide the shape? The initial point of the stroke doesn't have to be the end point. You can begin to experiment and play as your attention looks inward to the subject of the drawing. Starting can be arbitrary, and ending can have purpose. Or just let the fingers move. And when it feels like time to loop again, letting it happen. And you go around a few times, far past the beginning, or even end a little early, each giving a new condition to the shape, practicing our visual awareness or just interface as we draw, perform this action, that our mind is also present and observing, guiding part of the action. And if your page begins to fill, the space becomes a little crowded, we can always just look for new small opportunities, changing size of the shapes, letting them sneak in here and there to fill out the clustering. Taking a few more in that visual space of observing action, letting the eyes take in the field that is forming on the page. Maybe gently letting the eyes guide us. There's some input they suggest for composition, or just jumping around to explore in the new spaces created. And then since we've, in the time of attention, in the time of bringing mindfulness, awareness into the space of action, into the space of our body and our breath, the space of visual expression, you can start to inhabit that space, to move in, see what we can find, perhaps adding shading or lines, curvature to the shapes, building upon the initial action, For me, I see a lot of little olives or drops, trying to find in them through layering the edge contours some form to the flat shape. Some ribbing to the surface, little squash or melons. Just a few lines, what the eye begins to match to patterns in what starts as just a space of action, of the unintended and the arbitrary, that we bring action to a medium. The pen or pencil, the paper begins to mark, express territory on the page. We can find in that imagination, potential, the accumulation of more action and marking, bringing with it a slowly emerging world. We can take each cluster as either an opportunity to refine or explore what you see, to change it, to develop each world a little different, or develop the technique into that world through drawing, maybe defining more edges, looping over multiple times, once, twice, 3 times, to create separation and connection. Or in each one, changing pen or pencil, picking a color, drawing something different, just seeing what emerges as a playground, a space of play. We'll take 5 minutes or so just to have some space of creativity and self-exploration, quietness, as you explore whatever territory has emerged. If you need to, you can always just drop back to looping and re-looping with the breath. And if you still have some empty spaces left, canvases of your loops, you can use the second half of this ending phase to bring back a connection between this drawing and the breath. As the breath flows at the pace of the body, slowing down the hand and the eye and the mind into that very local, narrow territory. Each line started by a breath, fresh. Its expression completed by the full cycle of that breath. Building, layering, forming shape with technique, territory of action. Connecting our mindful attention into that space of openness and creative expression, the emptiness of finding something from a blank page. And having some time for the practice or training, discipline of aligning the anticipation of expression, the desire for a line with the rhythm and temper of our body and our breath, finding balance between the two, having space to observe, to feel, and to release. Page is endless. Its boundaries arbitrarily cut. It came off of whatever pad or sheet or book it's in. The drawing is also endless, just for a time being, bound here in the piece of paper that fits in our desk or in our lap, in our hands. There's no rush to finish. There is no completion, as it may continue on forever as an idea to explore or to put away after the next few minutes. But that connection between ourselves, our supporting breath, the cycles of our existence, being here, being present, is now. Is always now, drawing deeper into the now. Letting be the future that will be at some point, and releasing the action from before, the past that leaves its mark, but is open to continued re-inhabitation, reflection, and release. And as you're both inward and outward focus, the space of the page and the space of the mind and the hand begin to oscillate, merge. You may feel a little attention fatigue. It's time to just let the hands stretch a little bit, maybe move the eyes around or flex the neck. Feel free to continue drawing, but you can begin to transition from deeply focused in practice of awareness to just a relaxed openness, letting the eyes dart around and take in what has emerged, maybe finding little places of embellishment for fun, to contrast, to build connection or gap and space between things, or just to continue lightly breathing, gently forming on the page. As you open your senses, take in the sounds around you, the feeling of your feet on the ground or your hand, perhaps touching the paper, the smells in the air, the gentle breeze or breath around us on the hairs on our hands, the back of our neck. Coming back present into the space and taking a deep breath or two in as you begin to let go of the pen or pencil, let it come to rest wherever it may be in the drawing. Breathing into a space of your body and just letting it roll out with the shoulders, with the relaxing on the spine, with a recentering on a few breaths, maybe just a little movement as we've been in one position for a little while. And then opening your eyes physically or metaphorically and being ready to reach out and continue on in the day. We don't have to read too much into whatever comes out through these practices of drawing with mindfulness, but as I look at my drawing today, I see a collection of kind of barnacle-like shapes beginning to colonize and populate around some territory there on the page. Maybe that's some thoughts wanting to get out, things clinging on or attaching to, and the paper can let those express into a medium or format that visualizes what might be happening behind the scenes in our mind and in our feelings. Perhaps they're just circles with a circle inside of them and a few lines attached that begin to look a little like something, in our mind's own pattern recognition is doing a good job of filling in some gaps. But whatever it may be, that's an entrance into a reflection on what may be happening around you, a meditation on what comes out when we give ourselves a little bit of time to self-express and to look inward, what's flowing from our relaxed state into creativity. Whatever you came up with on your paper, I hope it was at least relaxing or enjoyable, perhaps fun, and maybe even an exciting idea to continue to explore with your creative practice. But each week we'll explore something new as a way to connect our mindfulness and our awareness of action and presence to this medium of drawing as a way to express ideas, emotions, things, or simply move our hand around for a little while and find some relaxation as we connect with our breath. If you enjoyed the practice, please share with some friends, give it a thumbs up below, and let me know in a comment what you found interesting about it. You can always share photographs of your drawings with me at Rooksisfun on Instagram. Wherever the rest of your day or evening takes you, draw well. Thank you.